My name is John Hearton. I am running for U.S. Congress for Florida District 8. It is a position that a well-known congressman had for 16 years, Bill Posey, and I appreciate his service to our nation and his service to this district. We've gotten to a point now where we've seen too much of this uniparty stuff, the activities that are going on, not just within the Democrat Party, but also within the Republican Party. I sit there and unabashedly say, I am a patriot and I'm a conservative. I happen to be part of the Republican Party. So, that being said, I'm also I'm not an establishment person, so I'm your anti-establishment candidate. What that means is that I'm not going to be blending in with folks that are up there on Capitol Hill, never coming back to see their constituents. Focusing in on what the money comes in from in terms of special interest and the lobbyists that sit there and have been doing so much corruption to this country. So we've got a situation here that we need to take hold of again. The U.S. has been run by special interests. I've been inundated with this since the last, even more so in the last couple of months. But the last year has taught me a lot. It's taught me that the people that we think are actually running things up there really aren't. They're getting involved with the politics as usual, which winds up being the billionaire structure that throws a lot of money at politicians to buy their votes, have legislation that goes their way. Well, the problem is, it's not just in D.C. It's here in Florida too. So I think you'll find out, and before things start coming out, I want you to know it is from me. This is not something that I shied away from, and the reason why is if I'm not fighting for you now, how can you expect me to fight for you in D.C.?
That's right.
So don't be surprised if you see some things about my opponent next week. Understand that they're in your best interest. The attempt is to try and educate the populace. It's nothing that's being made up. It's stuff that's just been researched. I've had 4 concerned citizens that actually approached me with volumes of information. And I wanted to make this a positive campaign. I wanted it to be a good, uplifting campaign. And going down there, I wound up being attacked. I had a couple of hit pieces done on me. The irony is, one of them, I think I was 16 or 17 when I had a fake ID. And I wasn't arrested, by the way. I wasn't arrested. I managed to get a citation, and I drove away. But they like to sit there and make it sound like I was arrested and a bad guy, and want to think that I actually had Miranda or been in jail or something like that. That's not the case. In fact, I've had a top secret clearance, in some cases SCI, for the last 36 years, 37 years. So. And if you have that kind of background, you don't get that. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, that's part of it. The other one was kind of interesting because it was a hit piece about questionable business practices. We've just heard about some of the discussions of the success. We had a company that we started back in 1999. Anybody remember the dot bomb scenario? Yeah. Well, like Trump, I know he went through some issues too. But we had a division that was doing work with the U.S. Postal Service. The U.S. Postal Service basically had come out, and maybe you might remember that there was a rumor about them charging for internet email in the early 2000s. Wasn't exactly false. What they were going to do is have a service offering. The service offering was actually going to be a something that they called Net Post Certified, which is a point-to-point transfer of documents with them serving with the guns and badges of the Postal Service as the third-party authenticator. And what that meant was that there was all of the Reduction in Paperwork Act and so forth that was happening in D.C. We had Social Security on board, Bureau of Printing and Engraving on board, and we had a 17-year license agreement with the U.S. Postal Service. Sounds pretty good. Nickel per transaction. Sounds even good. Better, even gooder. And the truth of the matter is, if that would have been executed and it would have actually run off, well, I probably wouldn't be here right now. So the irony is, we still did good. We wound up in a situation where we had 9/11 hit after that. We had Merrill Lynch and Goldman Sachs actually on our front door trying to get us to go public, and we knew it wasn't the right time because of the dot bomb, and then 9/11 hit, it wasn't any better. And then we had something called anthrax through the Postal Service. How many of you remember that? Okay, 2 weeks before that, I was down in DC at the ribbon cutting for the Net Post Certified launch, which never got off the ground. The problem with the 17-year license agreement is, if it's not executed, you don't make anything. So we invested $10 million into this. We had 90 plus investors, disparate investors with no collective bargaining. Anybody know what collective bargaining is? Basically one person to sit there and make decisions for the group. Well, so we had to force them to the table. So we went and found another investor and did what was called a Chapter 11, Section 363 under the bankruptcy code, which is called a pre-planned acquisition. Okay. Well, they wanted to take the meat on the bankruptcy piece and talk about that. So this is 2003 when this is happening. We've been through our trials and tribulations and some issues that were there, and what do? We stuck together. We made this thing grow. And we became ranked in the top 10 in 2007 nationwide against the groups like Lockheed Martin, Booz Allen Hamilton, Northrop Grumman, and we were doing roughly about $60 million in business for information assurance services. Grew the company to about 750 people, and that same company that they wanted to say was questionable, was problematic, was sold in 2009. And I stayed on as the chief technologist, as she mentioned, and we grew that company and sold it to Parsons for $125 million. Not bad. So anyway, the questionable business practices are the fact that sometimes you actually have to use and execute with the law. So we sit there in a situation where we have problems in this country right now, not because of the fact that there's no laws about it, but because we're not following the law or we're not executing against the law. So we need to do those. So I'm a person for less government. How many people out there are for less government? Woo! All right. If it's not constitutional, shut it down. We never gave the federal government the enumerated powers to go ahead and have things like the Department of Education. We don't need a federal Department of Education. There's a Department of Education in every state. Why have the extra pass-through? Why? Because the federal government says the larger we are, the less you see. So we need to go ahead and shut these agencies down that are not constitutional. I'd like to take whatever the savings comes from that's below the budget, take half, put it towards the debt, and the other half and send it to the states proportionally, where you have better use and in how that money is spent on your infrastructure, on your health care, on those things that are important to you. Well, let's talk local. Healthcare, how's that? Where's a little segue? Healthcare is an issue down here in Cleveland Clinic, is an issue up in Brevard as well, with Health First. Are doctors that are taking care of our people. We've got Veterans Affairs, and our veterans have got to, if they have anything that's bigger than a hangnail, they've got to pack their bags up and go to Palm Beach or Orlando. Right. What sense does that make? None. I'd like to put a research hospital in here. I want to put one in District 8. I want it to have the VA included in there. That way I can go ahead and bring federal funding to it. I want to go ahead and bring a university in there so that we can go ahead and encourage growth and so forth for the university, as well as maybe have a department that can do some training and exercising there. And then have some industry there too. Attract better doctors. The monopolies that we have here are not funding our doctors appropriately, and they're going south 2 hours just to go ahead and make 3 times as much money. We don't need that. Our lagoons. Sorry. You're going to learn about the lagoons probably some next week. I'll leave some of it at that, but what I will say is that we can do better. We can do a lot better. We've got a scenario where we keep trying to throw money at FIT in doing studies. We've been doing studies for years and years and years, and there's been no action. None. We need to take action on them. We need to go ahead and make sure that we're not just addressing the symptoms, but we're addressing the problem. The problem was we put a port in up there many years ago, put locks in place, and we never had any circular flow of water. So I've been talking with folks like Dwayne DeVries, who's one of the top people in terms of our lagoons. And we're considering what the opportunities are if we were to put in another port, have more of a circular situation. How many people here like our insurance rates? No? Okay. Well, just imagine this. Right now, usually when we have water that comes in some sort of surge, it comes in through Sebastian and it's got nowhere to go. So we wind up waiting for 5-6 days to see the tide go down and things get a little bit more normal. Well, what would insurance companies have to say if they didn't have to worry about that much? I'm not sure. I can't guarantee it. But if we fix some of these other problems, we may get an added advantage with the insurance. So, anyway, there are 5 bills. People that are running in this race, they're going to talk to you about a lot of different things in the history, and you're going to learn a lot about what they did and probably what they didn't do or what they'd like to go ahead and say that they did. That's not 100% correct. You'll find out that I'm sorry, lobbyists are lobbyists. You'll find out that special interest and lobbyists go hand in hand. Special interest is not your interest. Okay? I'm not about special interest. I'm about our Constitution. I'm about your interest. This is not a job that I had to take. Quite frankly, in many ways, it wasn't even a job that I wanted. But I felt pushed and called, and I willing to stand up and do it. So that's what this is about. It's about you. It's about us. It's about a win for all of us and bringing this country back to we the people. Okay? So, and one nation under God. I got 5 minutes or no?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. So a little bit about how I got into this, and I'm going to go to the one nation under God because it's just an easy segue. I met with Bill Posey actually in January 2023 on my way out to meet my new grandson. It was a situation where we had a stopover in the Philippines, and because my wife and I are avid scuba divers, and we really wanted to be the happiest homeless people in the world and go around the world scuba diving instead of doing this, but so be it. Wound up stopping in Philippines, doing a week of scuba diving, and went to a friend's wedding that was there, and then popped over to Okinawa to meet our son. I met with Bill beforehand, and it took me a few months to even come to the conclusion or decision that, I think I'm going to go ahead and run. So I filed my paperwork in April. Well, if any of you, and I know some of you have been in this position before where you've run for an elected position and you kind of have those, why am I doing it? It's the right thing. Why am I doing it? The kind of the up and down. So I was battling with that, with the idea that I'm just trying to help protect my kids, my 3 kids, and my 4 grandkids, and all of our future generations. Which is a noble idea. I think it's a decent idea to try and want to protect our God-given right for our future educations, our future kids, our generations. October of 2023, I wake up in the middle of the night, and I grab my phone, and you mentioned Ephesians, somebody mentioned Ephesians. I put in Ephesians 6:15 through 17 in the phone, set it to the side, rolled over, went back to sleep. Got up the next morning and I read it. Never happened to me before in my life. I've never had anything like this happen to me before. And read the scripture the next day, and I kind of had a feeling about what it was saying, knowing that probably there's no turning back, but still in the back of my mind, I'm going, I need a second opinion. So I contacted Pastor John Vacchiano, who happens to be a Patriot pastor, and I asked him, I said, what can you tell me about this? This is what happened. And his response was, you're called. You got to put on the full armor of God, be prepared for a war and a battle up there, and you got to go up there and do this. So at that point on, I knew there was no turning back, and even from then, I think probably have noticed a little bit of difference in my step, so to speak, because it's a mission, it's a requirement, it's something that we have to do as a country. It's something that we've got to remember that our founding fathers built this country on the foundation of God and God's principles.
That's right.
We've got to believe that in bringing those principles back, we can once again have some unity. We can once again have some ability to work with one another and make positive things happen. some say, well, this is the end. I've heard everything from, this is a big fight and it's going to be over. And I'll tell you what, I guarantee you it's not. It's not, because God wouldn't have put me in this position. He wouldn't have sat there and had me stay in after qualifying, even though the backdoor deals were happening. He knew they were happening. Nobody in here did. He kept me in it through that. So, long and the short of it is, I'm here for you guys. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take any. I'm an open book.
Not until after.
Not until afterwards, so never mind. Folks, I want to thank you all very much for the time tonight. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I'm excited about things. We're going to have a lot of great opportunities coming up, some more meet and greets and activities going on. Come Saturday, I will be there. We're going to have a few folks there at the table and so forth. The barbecue, I am told that it's going to be very good. And we'll have a great time. Okay? Thanks so much.